why do you think the Warriors' record, and Luke wants me to say it's 13-25 against teams with a winning record.
Okay.
But I'd take it way further than that because sometimes teams have a winning record and they're like, we're 31-30. No.
Well, and I always wonder about that stat. Like, if you're 13-25 against teams with a winning record, is that teams that have a winning record now?
When you play them?
Or teams that had a winning record when you played them?
It's a great question, Dibs.
Thank you. And I know
Really great question.
I don't get credit for it. That stat, nobody can ever answer it because we just give that stat. And the real answer is that stat is measured based on where the teams are now.
That's a really good question.
So it could change. That record could change without you even playing.
Of course.
Okay. Is that right, Luke and Grandy? Is that record, is that based on the records of the teams now? Or
Sounds right.
Yeah, you don't know.
No, it is.
No, I believe you. I'm less interested. Like, that's interesting, but I'm more interested in this. When we do what we just did and we scroll the schedule,
right?
Every time that they beat a top level opponent, like a really good team, that team was either missing its top player or two, or the Warriors won by 1/1000th of a point.
Tough to do, but yeah.
But they did it. Right? I mean, I guess, we
just played this game.
Oklahoma City, you beat them once by 2 with a funny court. The Clippers by 6, Boston, overtime, on and on. Phoenix, miracle shot. What's your answer to that question? Why is their record so bad against those teams? Now,
to me, it's a very simple answer.
I figured it might be. I think it's more intricate than what you're about to say, but go ahead and say it.
I'm going to give you the simple answer, and then I'm open to a more elaborate discussion because we're doing 4 hours, and I like to talk to you about the nuance of topics, especially this one. But the short answer is they're not that good. They're not as good as the good teams. And that is maybe too simplistic, but when you look at the record against the top 4 in the West, and I think they are 2-12 against those 4 teams, OKC, Minnesota, and the Clippers, and who am I forgetting? Among the top 4 in the
Denver.
West. Thank you, Denver.
The champs.
Only the champs.
Forgetting the champs.
These are the teams that have dominated you. So if I look at just those 4 teams, you're not as good as those 4 teams. So that skews this conversation dramatically because those 4 teams are 4 of the 5 or maybe 6 best teams in the association.
Yes and no. But what gets left out of that conversation is the normal ebb and flow of the NBA. And there are circumstances in play constantly. And if I bet I can do this now. If I go to the schedule of any one of those top teams that you're bringing up, I'm going to show you some double-digit losses to stupid teams. Like, what the hell were you doing? I'm in Milwaukee's right now. Milwaukee boasts just this year a 17-point loss to the Hawks, a 19-point loss to the Toronto Raptors. Let me keep going. They've got there's a 16-point loss to the Utah Jazz. They lost by 40 to the Cavs. At least the Cavs are good.
Yep.
They lost by 3 to the Blazers.
Bulls got wins.
They lost to the Blazers. This team lost to the Miami Heat by 26. They lost to the Memphis Grizzlies just 2 weeks ago. So when you say, well, the Warriors haven't done that because they're just not that good, but not that good teams still have a cup of coffee and do that themselves.
Well, the Warriors have some of those wins.
No, they don't.
The Warriors beat Boston in overtime.
The
Warriors beat Oklahoma City by 2. But these are wins.
They're wins.
They count.
But Milwaukee lost to the Hawks by 17. They lost to Utah by 16. These are crap teams. The Warriors...
It happens. There's hiccups. The Warriors have lost to crap teams.
But they haven't done this. They've not beaten a good team by double digits all year long.
Right.
With their good players.
Well,
with their good players.
Part of it is because they haven't had their good players all together for the majority of the year.
Yeah.
Draymond missed a dozen or so.
It feels like a cop-out.
It's not a cop-out.
It feels like it.
I think it's the reality of what this team is and what this team has been. They've been really good against the bad teams. They've been so-so against the mediocre teams, and they've been bad against the good teams. And I'm just looking at OKC's record as you were bringing that up about, how teams have done. And OKC's got a loss to Houston in December by 9. They've got a loss to Atlanta. That was only by 3. They didn't get blown out. They lost to Brooklyn 2 nights later. Teams go through ebbs and flows. They actually lost to Detroit by 16 at Detroit. That was the third game in 4 nights where OKC went to Detroit.
Right.
And they got blown out.
Because
these things happen.
They do, but not for the Warriors. That's my point. And
I do think that teams also, when they come to Golden State,
you're going to say you're going to get your best shot.
You're going to get up for Golden State.
I think it's such a cop-out.
I don't think so.
I really do.
If you're a young team and you're going up against the Chef and Clay and Draymond, you're going to be more motivated than you are against Utah on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, but I'm not comparing them to what they do against Utah. I'm comparing them to what they do against Giannis. And you're going to get up for that too. Or Tatum.
Sure.
Or the Joker.
No one's gone to Boston and won.
I think
they have 3 losses.
3 teams have. Right. I look at this and I think that there's plenty of this rampant in the Warrior fan base. My God, we will search high and low with a magnifying glass to come up with excuses when they lose. We really do. And I'm not sitting here taking shots at them. They're 32-28. I mean, the reason I don't really accept your answer of, well, they're not that good or not good enough is because I think the Warriors, through 5 months of the season, have been 5 different teams. I don't think this team right now has anything to do with the team that we saw at Christmas. Nothing to do with them. Even early January. It's a completely different roster with a completely different skill set. Draymond was gone. Kuminga hadn't bloomed yet. There's all kinds of different things going on month to month. But I am wondering out loud here why the Warriors have not seemed to benefit from the normal ebb and flow of the NBA. There's a reason teams, even the dominant ones, don't go, 73-9. There's a reason you don't do it because there's certain nights where you're just like, it's the end of a trip. It's a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a load management going in. The other team gets hot. Yeah, they're all NBA teams. But have you noticed, without excuses, that the Warriors, not once this year, have seemed to benefit from, there's a good team here tonight, but it's not a good spot for them, so we're going to beat them by 16. It hasn't happened all year long.
Well, it's because you haven't been good enough to do that. To me, that's the baseline of it.
But even bad teams do that sometimes. Like you've got a team in your building at the right time and you beat the tar out of them. They haven't done it.
Not a lot of good teams lose like that in those spots.
I just gave you 5 examples of the Bucks doing it this year alone.
Right. Were those games at home? Those games are on the road?
On the road. I'm talking about road games for the opponent.
Right.
Why have the Warriors not been better at Chase Center? Let's talk about it. They're 16-15.
Well, I think there are a number of reasons for that.
That's a putrid home record for a team that thinks it's good.
Well, they're not good. They're mediocre. So let's be fair with who they are after 60 games. You can think that they're good.
There's an answer
based on the names on the roster. Yes, the names on the roster, they've got 4 Hall of Famers on their team. There's only one other team in the association, as far as I can tell, that has 4 Hall of Famers on their team, and that's the Los Angeles Clippers. And they are yet to be a team that's defined by real postseason success. Kawhi's got chips, but nobody else does. Russell, who's hurt, James doesn't. And Paul certainly doesn't, but they've got 4 Hall of Famers. And maybe this is their year. I think that it is. And I said a month ago that I thought that it was. And now it's not looking as strong because they have injuries. But this Warrior team, based on their names, the names are better than their performance. So
for sure.
That's a big piece of it. The other piece, and let's just put the rat on the table,
this
brought to you by Atco Pest Control.
Let's go.
Chase Center is not a home court advantage anymore. Oracle was a home court advantage.
Okay.
Teams don't come in here now, and you don't have to face the same sort of fan energy, fan wrath, fan fan emotion.
I can't.
I'm not saying that's worth 7 points a night.
I can't dismiss.
It's a thing.
I can't dismiss what you're saying, but I honestly how many arenas around the NBA are you like, that's a tough place to play?
Boston, for sure.
Oklahoma City is a tough place to play.
Yep.
How many more? I mean, I don't. You're not going to.
A lot of it's circumstantial,
right? Well, that's what I'm getting at.
This used to be a circumstance where you came here and the crowd. It was "Let's Go Warriors" chants an hour before tip, and you came in here knowing that the crowd was going to be a factor.
But
the crowd's no longer a factor.
A veteran team shouldn't need that, Coach.
This team needs it. This team is not good enough to not need it.
I guess my point is they shouldn't even. You don't even have to be that good to have a good home record. Do you think it's scary to go play in Houston?
No.
Okay.
They stink.
Do you know what their home record is?
Probably about 500.
21-10.
Houston?
Yes.
They're terrible.
21-10.
Do they have a road win?
Do you know what? There's 6. Do you want to know what? Like Utah used to be a hard place to play. Do you think it's tough now? Is Utah scary?
Denver's a hard place to play.
Yes, that's a good example.
Add that to the list.
Is Utah hard?
No, because they're not very good.
19-11.
Yeah.
In the NBA, you can stink and you should still win 60% of your home games.
I'm with you.
What are we doing? I think this is relevant right now. The Golden State Warriors, especially if Giannis doesn't play tonight, this should be 3-0. It is go time. It is your building. You are as healthy as you possibly could be. 16-15? Totally under-discussed this year.
I agree with you there.
People are spending bajillions of dollars to go watch you play 500 basketball, and then we come here on the next day and we're like, I think they can go on a championship run. I don't get it. It is part of what I'm saying. This isn't critical. I don't even understand. They have the same home record as the Bulls.
You could look at the anatomy of the home losses, and you can go one by one, or you can take them in totality. And I think the problems with this team are comparable to what they've done on the road and what they've done at home. They've given many games away. You've given games away on the road. You've given them away at home. So this is not to blame the crowd for the Warriors' home struggles. They've struggled in close games because they struggled late. Rebounding, turnovers, decision-making, things that you should not be suffering through as a veteran team. You don't get to the foul line enough, you commit too many fouls, and you turn the ball over. And you go back to early in the year, and I'm looking at the schedule right now, you're 6-3. You come home and you lose to Cleveland by 8, Minnesota by 6, Minnesota by 3, OKC by 21, OKC in overtime. Then you beat Houston. That's a 6-game homestand. You went 1-5. 6-game homestand. You go 1-5. And I know you went up against Minnesota twice, OKC twice, and they're the class of the league, the class of the conference. But normally a good team would split those. You split it. You split both. You wind up with an not so great 3-3 homestand, but it's at least workable. And you look at through the whole home schedule, they've given away a ton of games.
A ton. And this is what I look at, and a lot of us do, right? Ever since the tragedy with Coach Decky, they have played 20 basketball games. They've won 14 of them. It's a much, much better basketball team. All right? Let's just spotlight what they've done at home during that time, okay? During that time, here are the good teams that have come to chase. Sacramento, lost. Lakers, double overtime, lost. Philadelphia, Embiid leaves halfway through, you win. Then Phoenix comes in, Currygasm. Clippers come in, you blow it. Lakers come in, no LeBron, you win 18. Denver comes in, totally outclassed.
You forgot Charlotte.
Right. I'm talking about the good teams.
Oh, sorry.
I went through just the good teams.
Okay.
Just the good teams.
Charlotte was an ugly one, too.
You lost to Denver. You lost to the Clippers. You lost to Sacramento. You lost to the Lakers. The games you won, you beat Philly with a portion of Embiid. You beat the Lakers with no LeBron. You beat the Suns with a miracle shot from Steph. Scene.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. To me, that's not good enough for me to feel what a lot of you seem to feel, which is that they can do this. They can do this in April and May. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm saying I haven't seen it yet. You have got to be really good at home. And they're not there yet. They are not there yet.
Well, they got 10 games left to do it.
Right, and that's what. But I'm uber focused on tonight.
Right.
Because this is a scenario where you're fully healthy. March is here. You're home. You're starting a homestand. You're coming off of a really forgettable loss. And so I just think there are a bunch of signs that point to if you really, really got designs on being something special the rest of the way, this is a type of game you come out and you play really well.
Or just being something. Forget special. Just be something. And by something, I mean a team that's not in the 9-10 play-in, hoping against hope that you can win 2 road games just to get into a series as the 8 to take on the 1 seed. To do something special, to me, quote-unquote, would be you wind up this season going like Guru talked about, 16-6. And the over-under for this team at the start of the year was 48.5. So you would need to go 17-5
I think the
to hit that number.
Yeah.
No, but you can look at it and you could say, all right, if you do beat Milwaukee, Chicago and San Antonio, followed by San Antonio, you could stack 4 in a row right there. Dallas on the road will be tough. The Lakers on the road, always tough.
Curry House of Horrors.
Right, and you never know who's going to play for LA.
Or the Warriors.
Exactly. So there are games on the schedule that you would mark down as quote-unquote expected scheduled wins, and there aren't too many scheduled losses, honestly. If you look at the way it goes, like Dallas on April 5th, the second half of a back-to-back, that feels to me like a scheduled loss. You play at Dallas here, you play Dallas here, one night off, then you go at Houston, at Dallas, 3 games in 4 nights.
Yep.
That's a tough little stretch right there, including a back-to-back in Texas.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, the idea of only losing 5 more games when you have 3 against Dallas, you have 2 trips to L.A., New Orleans is going to come here, Milwaukee is here tonight, you have to go to Minnesota, and all of that presupposes that you never lose any of the ones that are like the middle toss-ups.
Yeah.
Like the Knicks are coming in a couple of weeks. That's just a win?
Indiana, too.
I mean, you're asking a lot. Real quick, Paul in Oakland. Hey, Paul, what's going on? What are you doing? You're on with Willard and Dibs.
I am just driving back from a hailstorm on the other side of the 580 Dublin grade and listening to you guys. Let me preface my comments with, I am a Warrior guy going back to when they first got here with Wilt Chamberlain and Guy Rogers and Al Attles and Tom Sherry.
Damn.
So I've been through that whole deal, the Rick Barry years, the Joe Barely Cares years.
Oh, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? Oh, like I don't mean to be rude, but we're short on time.
I want his resume.
We got your resume. What do you want to say, brother?
I want to say that the 30 games that you guys seem to make the most cogent, which I agree to, against the, quote, better teams, 23 of those 30, they weren't good enough. Bottom line. You can dissect it, put it under a microscope, talk about inconsistent lineup, failure to close games, whatever. They weren't good enough. They're good enough in 7 of them. Moving forward, we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
The next 20 games have to play out. What I would be interested in knowing is when they won the chip 2 years ago, how were they against the, quote, better teams over the course of that season?
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit. We can take a look back at that. I can promise you it'll be better than what it is this year.